have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
Description. But what's most important to understand is that this is truth. This is the information that is being suppressed by the mainstream media, that is owned by these socialists, because that's what it is. There is proof of a socialist conspiracy for world government, where all aspects of human life are under the control of these oligarchs in the Council on Foreign Relations. It's undeniable, it's documented, they write about it, they brag about it in Foreign Affairs magazine. This is not a conspiracy theory. You see, we have the facts, those that are messengers, such as myself, and to understand the truth, simply one has to take a little time out of your busy, chaotic day that has been created to be busy and chaotic. Your whole life is like everyone's on this hamster wheel. People aren't taking the time, and they can't afford to because they have obligations. And the obligations seem to always get harder and harder, and the challenge is greater and greater, while the people at top continue to prosper. There's a reason for this. It's called an agenda. And here is the evidence. Proof of a conspiracy for world socialism.
It still astounds me that so many people cannot be aware of the agenda as it unfolds. The clear socialist agenda, eviscerating the Constitution under the Obama regime. Others bringing closer this world government, this alliance, the Anglo-American establishment. Here is from the Congressional Record on August 19th, 1940. It was a Monday. And it is the remarks of the Honorable J. THORKELSON of Montana. And I quote, "The beginning of the undermining of America was brought by Cecil Rhodes, who, in 1877, left money to establish scholarships at Oxford for the purpose of training diplomats to foster the reunion of Britain and America. In the first draft of his will, which is quoted in the book Cecil Rhodes by Basil Williams, or the book Cecil Rhodes by Sarah Guthrod Millen, he stated, directed that a secret society should be endowed with the following objects: the extension of British rule throughout the world, the colonization by British subjects of all lands where the means of livelihood are attainable by energy, labor, and enterprise, and especially the occupation by British settlers of the entire continent of Africa, the Holy Land, the valley of the Euphrates, the islands of Cyprus and Candia, the whole of South America, the islands of the Pacific, not heretofore possessed by Great Britain, and the whole of the Malay archipelago, the seaboard of China and Japan, the ultimate recovery of the United States of America as an integral part of the British Empire." That's the big part of it. The goal. The foundation of so great a power as to hereafter render wars impossible and promote the best interests of humanity. Now, for those of you who listened to this, which was actually put into the Congressional Record on Monday, August 19th, 1940, must say to yourselves, my goodness, how absurd, but how very true, under the corporatization or the corporate structure and the ownerships and the secret silent partners and alliances, an empire truly has been established. We have 6 companies that control 95% of the media that we see. And it goes further than that into all aspects, including pharmaceuticals, of course. The drug companies and the major owners of all of these companies are these central banks. And when you really get into the controlling factors of what we call the market, or we call the economy, is a controlled economy due to these alliances and government interventions, where the government favors certain corporations and regulates against others, which is so prevalent in the United States with the FDA, the EPA, the CDC. I can go on and on with all the alphabet soup. But what it is a true fact that this is the goal of the elite for the one world government. This is how it is envisioned, and the control. Here's more proof of it from the First Global Revolution, a report by the Council of the Club of Rome, where it states, bring the divided nation together to face an outside enemy, either a real one or else one invented for the purpose. With the disappearance of the traditional enemy, the temptation is to use religious or ethnic minorities as scapegoats, especially those whose differences from the majority are disturbing. Can we live without enemies? Every state has been so used to classifying its neighbors as friend or foe that the sudden absence of traditional adversaries has left governments and public opinion with a great void to fill. New enemies have to be identified, new strategies imagined, and new weapons devised. The new enemies are different in their nature and location, but they are no less real. They threaten the whole human race, and their names are pollution. The limits of democracy. Democracy is not a panacea. It cannot organize everything, and it is unaware of its own limits. These facts must be faced squarely, sacrilegious though this may sound. In its present form, democracy is no longer well suited for the tasks ahead. The complexity and the technical nature of many of today's problems do not always allow elected representatives to make competent decisions at the right time. Few politicians in office are sufficiently aware of the global nature of the problems facing them. The common enemy of humanity is man. In searching for a common enemy against whom we can unite, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. In their totality and their interactions, these phenomena do constitute a common threat which must be confronted by everyone together. But in designating these dangers as the enemy, we fall into the trap, which we have already warned readers about, namely mistaking symptoms for causes. All of these dangers are caused by human intervention in natural processes, and it is only through changed attitudes and behavior that they can be overcome. The real enemy then is humanity itself. And continuing with the Congressional record of Monday, August 19th, 1940, the Honorable J. THORKELSON of Montana. Before 1917, foreign influence came mainly from Anglo-American groups. Since the World War, these groups have been fortified by the international financiers and the internationalists, or the so-called minority group. The pressure is therefore more than double for combined. These groups control all avenues of communication and are now using them to further their plan of British domination to establish a world federation of states. Let me call to your attention the fact that on the reverse of the Great Seal of the United States, which appears on our dollar bill, you will find the exact symbol of the British-Israeli World Federation movement.
And here is a quote from the FBI vault file from 1970 discussing the Council on Foreign Relations and agenda. Incidentally, there are over 220 pages of documents, most of which are letters from concerned people, going as far back as 1950, describing their concern over this following information. The ultimate aim of the CFR is to have a one-government socialistic world with the 1,450 members of the CFR in control and reaping the profits. Leaving home in New York, at 18, Gumar joined Fidel Castro guerrillas in 1957.
He was a beatnik and Marxist in Greenwich Village and participated in various left-wing radical group conferences, he said. He says he saw what these people are really doing and discovered it was not a humanitarian cause. Now, this is a very interesting thing. This is a very interesting article that I'm going to refer to because it reflects a lot upon my own understanding and my own awakening to the New World Order. David Gumar, who was interviewed in this article by John Combe in 1970, this was from the FBI vaults, discusses his awakening, having been basically a Marxist. He was a beatnik and Marxist in Greenwich Village and participated in various left-wing radical group conferences, he admits. After leaving home in New York at 18, he joined Fidel Castro guerrillas in 1957. He said he saw what these people were really doing and discovered it was not a humanitarian cause. Continuing to work with radical groups, he began feeding information to the FBI. On questioning from the students, he said the FBI and some sections of the military are the only groups not fully contaminated by the powerful CFR. Even the House Un-American Activities Committee, now called the House Committee on Internal Security, is composed of 2 CFR members now. Adding more fuel to this socialist fire is from the California Legislature 1953 regular session, Senate Investigating Committee on Education, the 11th report. And I quote, "So-called modern communism is apparently the same hypocritical and deadly world conspiracy to destroy civilization that was founded by the secret order of the Illuminati in Bavaria on May 1st, 1776, and that raised its hoary head in the colonies here at a critical period before the adoption of our federal constitution. The world revolution conspiracy appears to have been so well organized as to be ever continuing and ever on the alert to take advantage of every opportunity presenting itself or that the conspirators could create. It is significant in this connection that as early as 1783, when unsettled conditions and the dissatisfaction in some quarters had arisen in the American colonies, a subversive anonymous summons was circulated among the colonial army to incite dissatisfaction and rebellion. George Washington immediately called the army together and in addressing them used this significant language. My God, what can this writer have in view by recommending such measures? Can he be a friend to the army? Can he be a friend of this country? Rather, he is not an insidious foe, some emissary perhaps from New York, plotting the ruin of both by sowing the seeds of discord and separation between the civil and military powers of the continent. And what a compliment does he pay to our understanding when he recommends measures in either alternative impractical in their nature. That's from page 86 and 87, volume 4, Marshall's Life of Washington. It is plain that Washington believed that the center of this secret conspiracy, so far as this country was concerned, to be located in New York, and felt it to be his duty to make such direct allusion. The recognition of May 1st, 1776 as the founding date of this world revolution conspiracy is not difficult to understand when it is realized that May Day is frequently celebrated, even in recent times, by rioting and bloodshed on a worldwide scale. It was not until 1847 or 1848 that the communist conspirators, who had therefore too operated in secret, came out in the open with the Manifesto of the Communist Party by Karl Marx and Frederick Engels, boldly proclaiming against practically everything upon which civilization is based: God, religion, the family, individual liberty, and so forth. The concluding paragraph of the Manifesto reading, "Communists scorn to hide their views and aims. They openly declare that their purpose can only be achieved by the forcible overthrow of the whole extant social order.